Hi guys, wait a second. Chatting with Faye. Selamat siang teman-teman, semoga semuanya sehat. So welcome once again to Isolate Show. And sorry last week it was my girl's birthday, jadi nggak bisa ada Isolate Show. But today anyways, topiknya sebetulnya agak quite serious ya, in the sense that we're gonna talk about women's and children's protection. Dan gue hari ini akan ngobrol sama seorang perempuan, a girl yang masih muda banget, baru umur 18 tahun. Tapi Faye udah benar-benar accomplish so many things. Lalu Google aja namanya pasti langsung muncul dari semua accomplishment dia. Interview kemana-mana seluruh dunia, ke Amerika, Singapura dan segala macam. Jadi I'm excited to talk to her. I know her personally. I've met her before as well. And she's always so inspiring. So hopefully a lot of you can join. And by the way, for whoever watches, it will convert to donations to Rumah Faye, which belongs to Faye. All right, let me just invite. Okay, wait a second. Hi PJ Utami. Hi Faye, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Okay, wait, why is the thing is not in my thing yet? No. I can just take it off. Oh, it's okay. Anyway, I don't know why it's there. All right, so Faye, kita berapa lama udah nggak ketemu ya?
Sebelum quarantine kita pas banget kayaknya ketemu deh.
Yang kemarin kayak ketemu di Panca kalau nggak salah ya.
Iya.
So everybody's okay, everybody's healthy ya?
Yes, everybody.
Okay. Well. So Faye, gue mau langsung aja ya kan. Terakhir-terakhir ini kan lu di Instagram lu banyak banget muncul about RUU PKS. Nah, banyak orang mungkin nggak tahu atau not very familiar with the details of the RUU ini. Tapi ada hal yang penting sekali. Nah, bisa nggak tapi briefly in a layman's term explain to all of us here what is RUU PKS ini?
Yeah. Jadi I have to preface it by saying that although Rumah Faye is part of the Tim Hore Hore gitu kali ya, we weren't the direct part bill or legislation because that happened a couple of years back really. It's been in the works since 2014 dan sebenarnya masuk ke dalam proses ke dalam DPR tahun 2016. But the bill itself, jadi RUU PKS, I'm sure everybody knows RUU Rancangan Undang-Undang dan PKS adalah Putusan Kekerasan Seksual. Title a lot of support for victims of sexual assault. The way I put it was that it's actually a overdue reform on the way Indonesia handles issues of sexual violence. Really not penjara punish perpetrators of assault, tapi tentang gimana kita bisa mendukung korban yang orang yang sudah menjadi kekerasan atau again eksploitasi seksual. And so what it really does is it outlines really clearly different forms of sexual assault that the Indonesian government hasn't really done. Right now kita tuh cuman recognize kalau nggak salah, aduh ini mungkin agak salah ya, tapi 2 or 3 basically forms which yang dipakai banyak itu. Tapi even pencabulan definisinya tuh kurang jelas gitu ya. It's mostly violence, but then because the definition is not so clear, akhirnya orang itu bisa gunain itu definisi biar bilang, oh itu bukan sexual violence, kan nggak gini gitu kan. So this bill itself, it really defines very clearly apa itu kekerasan seksual. Nah dari situ, it also defines hak-hak korban. Nah itu dari counseling, dari dukungan psikis, dari protection and anonymous, being a anonymous witness gitu, testifying anonymously. Because as far as this, and this is applied to all victims of traffic use, itu tuh sejauh ini kita juga kurang bisa membantu mereka kalau dari pemerintah ya. Jadi akhirnya they have to on individual organization who can also jujur, and we haven't even gotten into talking about like the implementation of it, whether or not we can implement it. Tapi I think the key here is that it sets the standard gitu ya of how government will deal with cases of violence dan juga meng-acknowledge bahwa di Indonesia emang udah darurat gitu ya kasus eksploitasi. Dan
Okay, sorry. Kenapa? Okay, so the reason is, you mentioned a very legit point gitu kan. Ini sudah penting, sudah harus ya kan. Ini emergency, like you said, udah darurat, udah critical. So the question is, why did it not pass? What is the big issue? Why did it not pass? Sorry, did I get cut off, or was it you ya, internetnya?
My time limit went off, tapi udah aku matiin. Terus aku lupa.
Okay, because it was a bit, yeah. Okay, so my question is, why did the government nggak make that into a law?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, right? Jadi aku lebih lihat mungkin dari perspektif aku sendiri ya, bukan sebagai representatif pemerintah.
Okay.
But sexual violence is a very hard issue about, not only in this country, tapi in our own individual communities gitu, apalagi di Indonesia. Dan kita, mungkin I focus not only on sexual violence, but also like child trafficking and child sexual exploitation as well. So it kind of goes into this. But culturally, we have this idea bahwa ya, jujur aja bahwa perempuan itu lesser gender. Dan akhirnya kalau ada anak, even anak ya, kalau ada perempuan yang menjadi korban kekerasan seksual atau pelecehan seksual, pikiran oh, kamu itu korban yang mesti kita dukung, yang mesti kita bantu. Tapi kamu tuh pakai apa? Kamu di mana? Jam berapa? Kamu dengan siapa? And those questions are not bad. And when you think of that kind of culture gitu ya, yang udah masuk ke dalam pola pemikiran kita, akhirnya itu mendampak legislation yang ada di komunitas kita, yang ada di negara kita, right? Because ya masuk lagi, DPR is the one who pushes a lot of our legislation through, and if they're really the people's representative, a lot of them in this country, even though a lot of activists have been quite vocal about in the past, that's the country. Masih ada banyak yang kontra RUU PKS, yang kontra a lot of other bills that are currently to in our local government, because we do believe that it will have a positive impact. Jadi dari aku mungkin
tapi pertanyaan di DPR-nya sendiri, actually for yang RUU yang PKS ini, can you tell me or do you know how many percent adalah yang female and how many percent adalah yang male?
Jadi, so I checked, right? So I never actually thought about it because I have my own like idea gitu bahwa lu perempuan lu laki, it shouldn't matter gitu. Like there are women who are evil as well. In fact, globally, are human, right? So I always I try to go in with it and it doesn't matter gitu. Tapi lama-lama ada yang nge-komen kan, terus aku jadi mikir, bener juga nih ya, gue harusnya ngecek gitu. So I ended up checking, and I can't give you the specific number now, tapi first of all kan ini DPR Komisi 8, our majority itu men.
Okay.
And ethnic diversity, the religious diversity of that commission, itu, let's just say there's not much gitu kan.
No, tapi gini, okay, my question is gini, hypothetically, if let's say that Komisi 8 ya, majority adalah female, do you think it will have passed or not?
Not necessarily. I don't think so.
Not necessarily juga, karena like you said just now, it's about the culture udah how many years sudah terus tertanam di manusia, pikiran orang Indonesia, benar?
Yeah, and in fact, I've met a lot of people kontra RUU PKS yang perempuan juga gitu. Soalnya it boils down to values kan, dan jujur, you really have to just sit down and talk with people to really understand where they're coming from. And if you really want to change people's mind, emang harus melalui obrolan gitu, melalui diskusi. Kita nggak bisa sok, lu salah gitu kan, itu akhirnya orang malah lebih merasa
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Faye. Sekarang compared to the ASEAN country, for Indonesia, in terms of women's protection ini, can you tell us what is the rank? Are we like above? Of course, I don't think it's above. See, is it rata-rata atau below?
Okay, so again, I'm not the professional on sexual assault specifically, tapi kalau tentang perdagangan anak ya, kita salah satu di Southeast Asian yang quite high because we're not only destination, but we're also a source, and there's lots of trafficking within our country as well. I do know, however, that in terms of the sexual assault legislation, we're one of the countries yang belum punya. There's a source on it that I'll send to you, and maksudnya we can put it up on both our stories so everybody who's listening bisa ngeliat, bisa baca. Tapi Indonesia itu salah satu negara yang benar-benar belum punya undang-undang yang menyatakan bahwa korban kekerasan seksual akan mendapat dukungan begini, dapat psikolog atau konseling atau apa gitu. And again, we haven't talked about enforcement or anything, but there's no statement about it gitu loh. Jadi pemerintah mendukung secara jelas korban-korban kekerasan seksual.
Okay, sekarang kan tadi you said about the support for victims. What about the perpetrators? Jadi orang melakukan hal tersebut, apakah sudah ada hukuman kepada orang-orang melakukan contohnya perkosa, sexual assault, this kind of things?
Yeah, great question. Jadi kalau ini mungkin RUPKS dulu kali ya. Under the RUPKS, there is some interesting laws in terms of perpetrators. When kan, like I said earlier, RUPKS identifies different types of sexual violence. Nah, kalau untuk perpetrator atau pelaku pelecehan seksual, pelakunya di bawah 14 tahun, there is a chance to enter an education, gimana ya, pendidikan aja sih, tentang kenapa melakukan itu salah. Jadi nggak langsung masuk penjara, tapi penjelasan gitu. Because it's back, right? Because we live in a culture where women are so easily objectified. Bahkan kekerasan seksual, mereka juga nggak sadar sendiri, ini salah. They should, okay, like, and that doesn't excuse their actions at all. Tapi sometimes it's true, gitu kan? Culture, it's not. I don't want to call it culture kali ya. Tapi again, gimana dari kecil itu udah ngelihat begitu, jadi merasa nggak apa-apa. And that's not really. And I thought anyone below 14 years old, karena pelaku kekerasan seksual itu banyak yang di bawah 4 tahun, banyak yang di dalam. Ya.
Wow.
Nah, selain itu, it does talk about like jail time, which is quite, which up to
minimal lah.
Gimana?
Minimal kali jail time ya, for 14 and below.
Yeah. In terms of jail time in general, I can't name specifically. Again, RUPKS is not my area of specific expertise. Tapi, so far now, jail time di Indonesia untuk pelaku kekerasan seksual, apalagi perdagangan manusia untuk tujuan seksual, has been quite. The story doesn't go. Sometimes people don't care, you know. Jadi gini, a lot of the times kita kalau if we see like one yang kan dan dia masuk penjara selama ada yang perempuan perdagang dia masuk penjara, let's say like 7 years, and most people celebrate, wah pelaku masuk penjara, perempuannya bebas. But then we don't think, perempuannya akhirnya gimana? She was 7 years old. She has usually no education. She might be pregnant. She might have this disease or other types of diseases that she doesn't know how to care for. And also, a lot of perempuannya terpaksa mencari pekerjaan yang tidak layak juga.
Yes. Correct. I understand. So it's a cycle. Jadi cycle-nya parah banget gitu. It just goes back and forth like that. Tapi kayak gini. Tapi my point of view is this loh. Like you said just now, kalau perpetrators nih, whatever age it is, cuma dikasih contohnya education, awareness, atau tentu penjaranya waktunya sangat minimal sekali. It doesn't discourage people to do the act itself, which actually harm the women and the children. Whereas you saw that what happened in India, right? There was that one big case. Sejak itu makanya langsung governmentnya semua pada go crazy and bahkan even death sentence, benar kan?
Yeah.
Nah maksudnya, do we have to wait for something crazy like that to happen or to be exposed sampai the government can like alert gitu, the public can be alert about this? Because I feel like, sorry to say, I feel like the RUPKS ini, for a while it was like in the news, tapi after that ya udah, nobody cares about it anymore, unfortunately gitu loh.
You know, the worst part, I think our big case has already happened. And I think it happened in forgot the year, or 2017. Tapi ada kasus tentang perempuan namanya Yu. I don't know if you remember this. She was.
See, that's how bad it is. I don't even remember it. That's how bad it is.
Cycle going, and we forget, and we let ourselves forget, right? Like that's also partly our fault, gitu. It was in 2016 or 2017. Again, I might be recalling this wrong, tapi seingat aku dia tuh 14 tahun. I can't tell you exactly where, but she was walking home from school and she was accosted over 10 of her upperclassmen, kakak kelas dia, laki-laki semua. Tapi ingat ya, kakak kelas di sekolah.
Yeah.
Usia sekolah, and they raped her. So they hit.
Sorry, Faye, I think your voice kok tiba-tiba hilang ya.
Oh,
I can hear you.
can you still hear me?
I can, but it's like agak putus-putus. I don't know if it's me or you ya.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear sometimes, but sometimes pas lagi when you speak, takutnya bisa suaranya nggak ada.
Oh, oke, coba. Ini masih putus-putus nggak?
Now it's okay, but sometimes tiba-tiba aja. But okay, please go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so let me know. Yeah. Jadi dia, she was walking home one day when she was coming home from school, and she was stopped by a couple of her kakak kelas. Terus mereka, they raped her gang. Habis itu she was killed, and she was a couple days later, and the youngest person, I think, was younger than her, was 12 or 13. And I think I'm completely glossing over the details, and I'm forgetting details karena ini udah dibayar parah itu beredar di sosial media. Aku inget rame banget, terus tiba-tiba
Tapi nggak ada apa-apa. Tapi nothing. The government did not do anything. There was nothing.
But there was, right? Like, and I think I was not enough, right? And people always, when is it enough gitu kan? Then the truth is it's enough when there's long-term change, when there's sustainable change. Kita ngomongin PKS aja. Kita harus ngomongin long-term sustainable change that comes from grassroots movements, right?
Such as Rumah Faye, such as the young people like yourself.
Because I hope what Rumah Faye is doing, along with a lot of incredible organizations. Tapi, this type of thing requires years, right? It's not even just about financial help, while at least something that a lot of organizations really need. Tapi, other than financial help, it's about long-term work, gitu loh. Jadi ya itu sih kalau dari aku.
Okay, this is also the question, yeah. In America, there's the hashtag Me Too movement. You know that, right? And I think after 1 year until now, I would say the momentum is still there. So more people will come up with their stories. In Indonesia, I feel like I mentioned before, it's like a hype thing, or to be on trend for something. Like even if with food and beverage, it's the same thing. Or a successful bubble tea, so everybody copy bubble tea. Ada famous food and there's more copy food. Like this. Like even yesterday about the black and white challenge, right? Well, so kan I'm not judging that you should not do that, but people want to do this fine, gitu loh. But my question is, when you talk about just a grassroots movement awareness ini, kok for myself kayaknya skeptical Indonesia grassroots movement tuh kayaknya it will not lead to anywhere, or it's going to be so long or so hard, gitu loh. What can you do when you talk about grassroots movement exactly itu what can you actually do untuk benar-benar bikin impact bahwa ada change, bukan cuma I'm also posting, reposting, tapi benar-benar ada impact. I'm gonna do something about it. Like being an activist, not just a reposter of Instagram or social media gitu.
From like small to like a bigger impact in our community gitu kali ya.
Yeah, how can you do that? How can you multiply that effect so that people and more people will not just be aware, like mentioned, but do something about it gitu loh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think awareness is something that we both overlook, in the sense that like a lot of people aren't aware enough, but then some people think awareness is that's it gitu ya. Kita nggak usah melakukan apa aja selain awareness.
Yeah.
Awareness, like something key to awareness that people always forget, itu harus gimana ya, pengetahuan yang mendalam gitu ya. Awareness nggak artinya kita paham itu apa, kita laporkan gitu ya. So I have people coming to me and they're like, okay, I know what child trafficking is. Now what? Gitu. And I'm like, well, that's great. That's not what I mean by awareness, right? Awareness artinya lu tahu perdagangan anak itu apa. Nah, dari situ you have to know identifikasi perdagangan anak itu bagaimana, atau kekerasan seksual, pelecehan seksual. It's not only your role to understand itu adalah kasus kekerasan seksual, tapi it's also your responsibility to understand kalau itu kekerasan seksual. Peran aku sebagai anak atau sebagai teman atau sebagai even like a stranger adalah untuk gini gitu. And important part itu cara melaporkan kasus-kasus. And then, like anything, I think not just child trafficking, but also obviously to sexual violence, and to abuse, and to any other kind of human rights violation, really gitu. Yeah.
I have two questions here regarding your response. So first of all, if people want to know more or more be involved, where should they go? Like what can they do? Okay, like really actionnya konkretnya apa? So number two, I know there's some women who are hesitant to become victimized in the sense they don't want to report whatever happened to them. Mereka malu karena ada tabu kalau di rape ya pastilah gimana kita bisa mengerti juga kan. Can you respond on these two things?
Well, first of all, I think we have to talk a little bit about kalau yang pertama tadi itu kan where do people go?
Yeah.
So first of all, I know the classic one is to go to Polda gitu ya, wherever we go.
No, maksudnya bukan untuk victim misalnya contoh like me like anybody gitu, like they want to be more active involved with this, like you said benar-benar aware ya. Where can they go? Where can they do? Like is it Rumah Faye, something like that? Can you give sources gitu loh?
Yeah. Well, it depends how you want to be involved kan. Kalau lebih tentang pengetahuan aja, mau paham apa itu perdagangan anak, honestly, Google is an incredible. I know it's so gross, tapi Google is an incredible resource. When I was just starting Rumah Faye, and when I mean Google, bukannya artinya apa itu perdagangan anak, tapi kita cari professionals in the field gitu. How I started Rumah Faye wasn't just by saying, gue mau mulai deh without any prior knowledge, but I sent mungkin kayak over the course of 2 or 3 years, I sent almost 100 letters. I want to say, tapi 100 handwritten letters ke artis, ke organisasi, ke kementerian juga, yang gak jawab banyak gitu ya. Tapi akhirnya banyak yang mau duduk sama aku dan berdiskusi. And they were so their knowledge and their understanding sama aku, biar akhirnya aku bisa maksudnya bisa mengambil langkah partisipatif untuk
yes.
Jadi for me, the first thing is itu sih, reach out to people. Like even me, I'm always very happy to talk to people who want to learn more. I always take time out of my day to reply kayak emails tentang apa sih perdagangan. Maksudnya mungkin simple banget, but I know that means a lot, right? Like I know that's so important. Jadi mungkin pertama itu. Dan kedua, untuk langkah partisipatif, ya langsung aja ke organisasi yang ada lumayan banyak sih yang mengambil relawan. Setahu aku, Rumah Faye juga. Sekarang kita nggak buka, tapi we do work a lot with our communities and with people who want to get involved. So I'm sure that's an option as well. I think that I hope that answers. Yeah.
Second question about the female victims.
Yeah. And I think that applies to all victims kali ya, bukan cuma perempuan.
Sure.
Well, it's very hard to step up and say that, hey, I was a victim of sexual assault. Maybe not just here, tapi kalau di Indonesia emang tabunya itu cukup berat gitu ya kalau mau keluar dan admit it.
Sure.
I think the first thing to remember first of all is that you have to, it depends on your comfort level, right? You don't have to share your story. Tapi sharing your story could be beneficial to you and healthy to you. I think the first thing to do is just not to come to, you can go to your friends for support, tapi when it comes to advice, yang paling penting itu untuk mencari psikolog dan cari dari tempat yang that will support you. Soalnya ya jujur di Indonesia juga ada beberapa kasus di mana ya mungkin mungkin kakak, mungkin you as well, that there are cases where just take advantage of the clients here. So there's organizations, incredible foundations kayak Yayasan Pulih yang benar-benar mau membantu korban atau teman-teman yang struggling with something, and they'll definitely be open to helping you or helping your friend with it. So I think first of all itu sih, go to a counselor, a psychologist yang pasti mau membantu.
Okay, sekarang next question adalah as a woman right now living in Indonesia, girl pokoknya ya, what can we do untuk jaga diri kita? I mean, if you ask this question to a religious organization, they will tell you, ya tadi udah bilang, jangan ke klub malam-malam, jangan ke karaoke, pakai baju jangan seksi-seksi, kan bener nggak sih? Tapi I'm looking for other things inside of that because I feel like that's so blaming women banget society-nya begitu loh. What can we do to protect ourselves? In reality aja bagaimana?
Yeah, so obviously it's not a question I wish I were answering. You definitely understand that it's a tough question, but at the end of the day, it's tough because at some point you can't really avoid it as much as you want to because you will walk down the street and I'm sure you experience as well. Terus akan ada aja gitu ya abang-abang yang nyolek atau yang siul-siul, yang manggil-manggil hey cewek gitu, and it's just not fun gitu. Kalau dari aku, I think all you can really do is like just walk with friends.
Sure.
Age the thing, it's crazy because at the end of itu mereka, aku pernah gitu, ini jadi cerita gitu ya, tapi aku pernah lagi jalan sama temen-temenku laki, and I got catcalled, right? And I was just gonna ignore it gitu kan, and like I was just whatever, and then the guy sees my friend, terus dia minta maaf ke siapa? Ke temanku, bukan ke aku.
Oh, that's weird. That's really weird.
Iya kan, because it goes back to the whole weird ownership thing gitu.
Yes.
Ya, karena laki, mungkin itu they didn't even know, mungkin itu bisa kakak, pacar, even like maybe things teman aja, tapi karena laki langsung merasa oh ternyata aku gitu kan.
Tapi okay, this is the thing also ya. Kan tadi we always talk about awareness about sexual awareness about this, and I think a lot of these messages itu bisa dikasih kepada perempuan. Lu kalau perempuan lu jagain gini. Kok cowok apa dikasih gini kelas-kelas kayak gini ya? Gue bingung. Kenapa cowok apa diajarin sih?
That's beda. Langsung jualan nih kita. Yeah, I think sexual education, sexual assault awareness itu kita nggak bisa cuma ngomong sama perempuan gitu kan. Akhirnya nggak efektif gitu. Akhirnya perempuan masa harus terus di dalam rumah, nggak boleh keluar, itu kan mohon maaf ya, kurang ajar banget gitu. So we do talk to boys very, very clearly gitu. What areas can you touch in a friend, the girl? How do you talk to them? What's a respectful way to talk to them? And I think, this is going to answer your previous question, but something I did, and I've done this since I was a kid. My mom, orangnya. Jadi kalau ketemu orang, kita ya halo-haloan duluan. We do morning walks. Whenever I see somebody, I always say hello first. And something I realize itu ya, kalau ada mas-mas atau bapak-bapak, kalau aku yang for some reason, sometimes it goes wrong, but other times it humanizes me. Dilihat teman sebagai adik, kayak sebagai mbak-mbak gitu, bukan sebagai puan, right? So when I say
ngerti
gitu, like ide gitu, and then they leave me alone. And
jadi kayak they look at you not as an object, tapi as somebody that they personally.
Iya.
Okay, that's
interesting kan?
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point banget.
Iya, berarti like there has to be like a culture switch, right? And I think we have to learn from situations like that in the sense that this isn't always the case, but when they don't mean it, when it comes from lack of education, itu berarti it's a failing on our part, not as females, but as a community, right? As a community yang seharusnya itu tanggung jawab kita untuk terus memperjuangkan hak perempuan, dan dengan legislasi seperti RUU PKS, akhirnya putting out to our whole country that's basically saying, look, this is not our priority, terlalu sulit untuk bahas, kita basic, kan mereka juga bilang agak sulit gitu. Jadi I think that it goes a long way kalau kita bukan cuma sebagai orang, tapi sebagai rakyat mau membahas isu yang sensitif, yang tabu, that means a lot, right? Because it shows that we
do you really see in reality, in your realistic expectations, do you believe that this RUU PKS will be a reality within the next 5 years?
Well, to be completely honest, jadi ini jadi story a bit. I was, when RUU PKS akhirnya ditunda lagi tahun ini, I was opening WhatsApp untuk nyari siaran pers Rumah V dan jaringan kita kan. And I was searching RUU PKS di WhatsApp, and I scrolled to find it, and I was like, lah, kok scrollingnya jauh banget gitu. And dari kayak 2-3 lalu, like holding narasi akademik RUU PKS, of me holding RUU PKS, smiling, saying this is the year gitu. Tahun ini pasti kemarin ada RKUHP rame banget itu kan. I was so sure. Terus ternyata tidak gitu. And this year like I cried, cause abis this is Rumah V juga banyak ini yang akhirnya kita yang nanganin their psychological help, their counseling, their rehabilitation, itu kita yang nanganin kan. I was just so like crushed. Jadi aku pribadi, you know, kan udah dimasukin ke dalam Prolegnas 2021. Who knows that might take, tapi you know, I'm hopeful. I don't know. Aku pokoknya dari sisi teman-teman Faye, kita terus mendesak, terus buangkan RUU PKS, tapi ya.
I wish you really well. I mean, this is amazing. I mean, a lot of people are watching it right now. I really hope that people are lebih aware. And this is our responsibility, as you said, ya. Bukan cuma rumah Faye doang, cuma perempuan, tapi everybody has to be part of this community, like you said, right? Benar kan? So, Faye, this is thank you so much for your time here, and I really wish you at Rumah Faye all the best. And I'm not just saying it, I really, really do, because I have 3 girls, like you know, ya kan? Jadi pastinya gue pengen dong anak perempuan gue juga aman tinggal di negara ini, ya kan? Okay, Faye, sebelum pergi, biasa gue ada rapid fire questions that you have to answer really quick. This is just random questions, nothing to do necessarily about the RUPKS. Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Name one heroine woman outside your family ya, yang you really, really admire. Iya, daunnya dia bilang, Ibu Uli, nggak mau.
Sebenarnya banyak banget sih, and di Indonesia juga. And
Only one.
Yeah, I know. And I want to name somebody orang Indonesia, tapi jujur, I do have to say, this is like the one who made me want to start Rumah Faye, and it's Malala Yousafzai. Yeah. There were so many orang Indonesia yang benar-benar menginspirasi aku.
Sure.
Tapi because she was my age, I remember so clearly. Jadi her book was released like a week before I started Rumah Faye, and at the time aku masih kayak I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if and I remember I got her book immediately because it was well known at the time that I really liked her by my family. I finished that book in like 1 or 2 days, I think, and I read it and I was like, that's incredible gitu. Kalau dia sampai bisa, ya maksudnya she was shot in the head and she was still like, she said that kalau aku ada kayak beberapa detik lagi untuk berbicara dengan kayak the guy who shot me, I would just explain to him why it was so important for me to go to school. And I was like, wow. If I had a couple seconds, I would run away, man. Like, gitu kayak.
She's fearless, isn't she? Yeah, yes. Yeah, no, that's a perfect heroine for all of us to admire. I mean, she's really great. She's really great. Okay, what is your guilty pleasure?
Oh no. Okay, actually, you know what? I'll say it. Knitting. Ngerajut.
Knitting. Wow. Okay. You don't have to feel guilty about it. I think it's a very good hobby.
It's guilty.
Oh, that's good. Okay, I guess you answered this one, yeah. Tapi I'm gonna say it again. What book changed your life?
Yeah, I am. I think it's just an incredible book. I love reading. I actually love reading fiction the most. So I think it only underlines even more why Malala is such an incredible figure and somebody I really look up to in my life. Because reading that autobiography at like, kayaknya I was like 11 years old. Itu bener-bener, it's what really showed me that I could do something gitu sih.
Alright, by the way guys, Faye itu udah sering banget ya dibawa untuk bicara, wawancara, interview dan segala macam ya kan, Kick Andy lah, CNN, pokoknya banyak banget.
Malu.
Oke, pertanyaan gue ada simple. Pas tuh mau ke stage gitu, do you still have stage fright or not?
Oh my god, this is the best question. Yes.
Okay.
You know, orang itu nggak pernah they don't think I have it, tapi I really bad stage fright. Jadi
so
waktu aku pertama mulai, aku tuh bisa kayak megang note card, gemeteran sampai jatuh di atas stage. Can you imagine how embarrassing that is? Jadi sampai sekarang iya banget.
Okay. What is your number one pet peeve?
Kalau orang lupa matiin lampu.
Okay.
It's so, I don't understand why it's so hard.
That's random. But that's really random, but okay. Alright. Okay. Karakter orang apa yang lu paling admire? Karakter daripada orang itu, apa yang paling lu admire?
You know,
just one.
Yeah, I was gonna say discipline. I think discipline is like one of the most important things. Tapi lama-lama, at the end of it, I think it's compassion. Because
me too.
Oh, yay! Berarti jawabannya benar gitu ya. No, I just think compassion is like when compassion is the root of something, of anything you do, it reflects so much, you know. And I think from compassion there can be discipline, there can be pokoknya sukses semuanya keluar. Tapi when you're rooted in compassion, it's a different, you know, it's absolutely incredible, you know, it's beautiful. Jadi itu sih, that's a character I really admire in
That's a
people.
very good one. That's a very good one. Oke, ini by the way, Fi orang Batak ya. Jadi ini jawabannya juga ya. Orang Batak adalah titik-titik, tapi only bersatu kata doang.
Aduh, aku nggak mau menstereotip, tapi orang Batak itu orang, okay, I'm kind of changing the sentence, tapi orang Batak itu menghargai keluarga. I think
Okay, that's true. That is true. That is so true. Yes, okay. You are okay. Faye, lu tuh cuma 18 tahun loh. Nggak tahu lu ngerti nggak sih, baru 15 tahun doang. Tapi okay, if you have to apa say to yourself, your mental age itu berapa sih umurnya sebetulnya?
You know, that's funny, right? People think aku bilang kayak, oh 40, ya 40. 40. Tapi jujur, I feel younger.
Oh, it's okay, tell me what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up as a youth activist. A youth activist, it's such a weird word gitu ya. Tapi something I found very important is that as an activist, I have to be accessible ke orang gitu. Aku tuh dulu, waktu pertama jadi aktivis gitu, orang tuh bilang susah gitu ya cara kalau mau ngomong ke aku suka nggak enakan, nggak tahu mau bilang apa. And I was like, that shouldn't be the case, you know. I'm your age. Please, I want you guys to ask questions to me. And so I think something I always try to do is always to just keep youthful, meskipun masih youthful gitu ya. Tapi I think
gue juga kayak lu. Gue mau stay useful, makanya kan mau itu longboarding together kan?
Iya, ayo fix banget sama kakak LGC Indonesia.
Yeah. Okay, alright. Sekarang this is also another question. Kalau lu cowok, kan lu sekarang perempuan, lu bikin rumah Faye ya kan? If you're born a guy ya, what charity or what cause would you do? Would it still be rumah Faye or not?
You know, I think at the end of the day, like ini nature versus nurture debate banget ya. Tapi, you know, I always came from a background, a family that very nekenin banget kepentingan untuk kayak social work and everything, right? And I know that me personally, I've always been very drawn into social work, and the reason why I ended up starting Rumah Faye is because menurut aku perdagangan anak itu nggak banyak perhatian. And really when I started Rumah Faye, there was no focus on gender, if I'm being honest. Even dulu Rumah Faye tuh my dream itu tuh sampai sekarang actually my safe house adalah untuk membuat rumah aman untuk laki-laki korban kekerasan eksploitasi seksual anak yang laki-laki. Because di Indonesia sejauh ini belum, yang nggak cukup lah dukungan untuk korban laki.
Sure.
So I think I hope gitu. I think it would have been.
You still be Rumah Faye, yeah. Okay, last question, and this is the important one, guys. What is your advice for fellow teenagers?
My advice for fellow teenagers is to take advantage of every opportunity you get. Soalnya gini ya, kita kan berarti kalau remaja mungkin teman-teman Gen Z ya, kita semua, kita lahir di generasi yang kita tuh gampang banget dapat akses teknologi. And it's, on one hand, it's so hard for us to feel like we can make a difference. Tapi sebenarnya ya, kalau kita mau nyari, kita tuh kesempatannya cukup banyak gitu. Websites like change.org, campaign.id, I might be messing up the end of it ya, tapi change.org, campaign, Indorelawan, these are all like websites. Ini baru Indonesia aja ya, internationally there's lots yang benar-benar mau memfasilitasi keinginan kita untuk melakukan sesuatu. Dan dengan medsos itu menurut aku, you know, it's a weird balance ya, but it's also much easier to make a difference, to find people. At the end of the day, kayaknya dari kita sebagai anak remaja yang penting tuh kita mau mencari kontak-kontak itu, mencari sesuatu gitu. I think we're all passionate about something. If we're still feel lost, if we feel like we can't find it, well, we have such an incredible opportunity to find it gitu. Jadi my advice itu sih, go out of your comfort zone, take advantage of every opportunity you can find.
Okay. By the way, I hope my daughter Emily's watching. Emily, please watch this and listen to this most important line. Do something, not just TikTok. Yeah.
Mungkin kita kayak gini lagi tapi pakai TikTok gitu, jadi lebih menarik.
Kita gini jadinya menarik. Okay, this has been so much fun. Even though it's a heavy topic, tapi I think talking to Faye is very useful. Jadi lebih seru ya. Kalau ibu mungkin agak lebih heavy banget ini menurut gue ya, gitu ya. So Faye, again, thank you so much. And of course, I think that a lot of people are thankful that you have built Rumah Faye to the point where it is right now. Ya kan? And I really wish you, and of course, your Rumah Faye ini benar-benar always success ya. Bisa really help so many people, bless so many people as well for Indonesia. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Faye. Be safe, yeah.
Yes,
of course,
you
it's my
too.
pleasure.
I
Bye,
can't wait to
guys. See you
see
next
them,
week.
yeah.
Yeah, bye.